Hey there, thanks for tuning into Duck Bricks. Today we'll be taking a look at the LEGO art sets, and specifically some custom LEGO art Bionicle mosaics designed by both me and an official LEGO designer named Nick Voss. We will also be discussing the LEGO art theme as a whole and taking a look at some of the pieces that I have up on my walls right now. Finally, my partner Brick will be joining us for a discussion on how to optimize the LEGO art mosaics if you intend to buy more than one, and some tips and tricks on how to save some money while building both your own custom mosaics and the official LEGO ones. So let's start by taking a look at what we've got. So as we approach the entrance to our LEGO collection here, you can see a look at pretty much all of the official LEGO set mosaics that I have up on my wall right now, from the Iron Man ones to the Star Wars ones. Personally, I am not too interested in the Beatles or Marilyn Monroe mosaics, which is why I have only purchased these ones to use in their official configuration. That being said, I have purchased basically enough to be able to display all of the different alternative characters and designs, which you can see here. So moving on up, we'll take a look at this longer form Iron Man mosaic right here and how it compares to the others. The first thing that you'll notice is a bit of a downside to this personally, is that a lot of this is empty space. You can see kind of the area that I'm pointing to right here. Just get used to essentially placing black and dark blue studs in basically just different patterns as compared with the instruction manual. That is one downside. That being said, I do think it was an acceptable compromise because I'm not really sure what other long form Iron Man shot you could have used. If you did the full body from the front view, then you'd get kind of a duplication repetition with this picture right here. So there really wasn't another way to do it, and I do appreciate the kind of unique angle of this shot. But as compared to the Darth Vader one, which is here, you don't really have as much dead space at all as compared to the Iron Man one. The good thing about this is pretty much from the helmet to the body, everything is full, even the fingers there, and the lightsaber blade. And while I know some people will complain that it is cut off just a little bit, I personally don't mind that too much, just because of the fact that that's kind of the style of all the mosaics as a whole. So in terms of my thoughts on these official LEGO set mosaics, personally, I like them a lot, but I do admit that they are not for everyone. For example, my partner Brick is not personally very interested in these mosaic sets. He prefers the actual sets like the ships and vehicles and whatnot that you can build with LEGO bricks. That being said, I'm really grateful that LEGO is actually continuing to pursue all sorts of different options for adult fans. This year in particular, LEGO launched the 18+ line of sets, and they've really been going full force into that and recognizing the AFOL community as a major part of their business decisions, which is something that they kind of avoided / didn't really emphasize too much in the past. I am very curious to see how well these sell. I really hope they do sell well because I think this line has a lot of potential. For example, under the Star Wars banner, they could very easily put out a mosaic where you could choose to build a clone trooper, stormtrooper, first order stormtrooper, etc., and kind of go through the different iterations of a certain similarly colored character throughout the history of a theme. In terms of the pictures themselves, one thing that's interesting to note in the official instruction manuals for these is that these are all custom images created by LEGO designers. They're custom artwork and not really stuff that you can find recognizably online. It's stuff that LEGO designers really had to put a lot of thought into. And I think that thought put into this really shows in the final product. Even the decision to go from squares to studs in order to make it seem less pixelated was something that obviously I'm sure LEGO did a lot of different tests for and is completely different from any other mosaic they've done in the past. So personally, I'm very curious to see where this line goes, how many more sets will come out, and how frequently the release dates will be for these. Alright, so we've made it to the current mosaics I have up on my wall, in terms of Bionicle. While space is a little bit limited as we're in the stairwell here, Onua's Pakari is cut off a bit. You can kind of see the Warhol inspiration that these pictures took. These were actually not designed by me. These were designed by Prince Galador on Twitter. He is an official LEGO designer by the name of Nick Voss. He designed the Ninjago City official set, as well as a ton of other really great LEGO sets. And what's really interesting about these is that I was able to build these specifically from the existing sets. So to be able to build all 6 of these, I only needed 5 of the Warhol sets. It came with enough pieces. Give or take, some of the black studs need to be filled in. That's something that can be very easily fixed with a small Bricklink or Bricks and Pieces order, which I have placed. I'm waiting for it to get here. but you can kind of see the way that he's designed these is very, very clear, and it's really unique. It's not really something that you can do using the Lego art site that I did for the Matanui map over there, because it's in a very special set of colors, and it's designed by an official Lego designer, which I think makes it a little bit more authentic and a little bit more cool. Of course, he's posted all of the instructions on Twitter, and I will be including some more in-depth looks throughout this video where you can kind of see them up close and appreciate them as a set piece. This mosaic right here is actually pretty special in that I didn't actually use any official Lego set to build it. It was entirely generated by a site called Lego Art Remix, which is really, really useful and something we'll be discussing in much further detail later on in this video. As you can see, obviously a lot of the colors like the regular blue and greens just don't come in any of the sets. And so what I did is that I got this by a combination of ordering parts on Bricks and Pieces, which is Lego's official part ordering site, as well as, of course, Bricklink, which is the secondary market for Lego builds. This is, as any Bionicle fan will be able to tell, the island of Matanui, and one of the special things I did here is include the sticker of the map of Matanui that coincidentally the designer of those other mask mosaics snuck into the Ninjago City Docks official set. The other kind of unique thing about this is that it is in a different size. It's not really standard as compared to the other mosaics. And the reason that I did this was to really be able to fully capture the shape of it. It wasn't a map that needed to be especially long, but it also wouldn't really work as just a regular square. So what I did is that I kind of extended the standard frame of one of the regular art pieces, which is usually just this square right here. And I extended it out to be a custom sized frame, which again was very, very easy to do using the specialized Lego Art Remix site. In terms of my future plans for Bionicle mosaics, I have a pretty ambitious layout in mind. I am intending to do one mosaic for every single year of the Bionicle theme, from 2001 to 2010. You can see some of my picks here. Of course, I'm not 100% sold on all of these, but I think that for the most part, most of these are pretty good images to use for this, and stuff that I'm really excited to build. Especially the massive Matanui robot mosaic right here. You can see my plans for it. I really love how the sun behind the arm kind of illuminates it in a different color compared to the rest of the picture, how the purple of the sky kind of fades into the black of space, just to show the immense scale of this robot, which I guess at this point should be more called the Makuta robot and not the Matanui robot, because he's taken over at this point. But that one will probably be representing 2010 as a year. Obviously, these stars are not too interesting to me to represent mosaic format, so I wanted something story relevant that I could really depict with a big jaw-dropping mosaic, and I think this is the biggest one that I will make, and I'm very excited to put this together. As you can see here, the other great thing is that this was designed by the Lego Art Remix site along with the rest. For example, you can see some of my other highlights, like this 2003 one for the Avoki and Kraken with the Matanui Island in the middle. Another one that I might do for 2001 with all 6 Toa. I actually have the parts ordered for this, and a few more scattered throughout over here. Speaking of the Lego Art Remix site, joining me right now is my partner Brick, conferencing in from across the country, where he is going to come in and give his thoughts on this general theme as a whole, as well as the Lego Art Remix site and the idea of creating your own mosaics. Hey Brick, how's it going?
Not bad, how are you?
Pretty good. I was thinking that maybe we could discuss the Lego art sets. Specifically, what are your thoughts on them? And secondly, I wanted to show you one of the a really cool website that you can use to kind of create your own Lego art stuff. I'm just wondering, what are your thoughts on these sets in general, and how do you feel about them as official Lego products?
I find them definitely be an interesting addition to the line. That being said, I feel like while they are aesthetically pleasing to some people, they're kind of overpriced, and I feel like they're taking advantage of some of the adult fan community.
Yeah, I can definitely see that as a point of view. I remember when these were first announced, AFOL reaction and Lego community fan reaction kind of as a whole was very split. A lot of people, personally, myself included, really loved them and really liked how they looked, whereas almost exactly another half of the people were vehemently against them. And I remember one of the top comments being people asking why they couldn't just pay, I'd say like $5 to $10 for a poster of the same exact image. Even a fancy poster would not be nearly as much as an $120, $30 set. And so I can see kind of both sides of the story. Certainly, there's a lot of really interesting things going on with pricing these, because LEGO's never really put out a set like this before, which I think we can kind of delve into moving on to this video. The other thing that especially stood out to me about after buying these sets is that I didn't quite have buyer's remorse, but I did feel that I really could have spent my money better, because after I only bought 5 out of the 6 actually needed to make all the options for one given theme, I had this size bag of leftovers, and I almost felt that if I'd gone to Bricks and Pieces, which is also through LEGO officially, I could have saved potentially a lot more money. Maybe I only needed to buy 4, and then I could have Bricks and Pieces the last 2. There's definitely a way to optimize this, and we'll get into this as the video goes on. But you can see just here, these are the sheer amount of leftovers that you're going to have by buying just the Iron Man and the Star Wars mosaics. The studs themselves are just so many leftover that it almost feels like to me that the majority of the budget that goes into these sets is really just on these extra studs. And I think that maybe there's an alternate strategy to pricing these or putting them out that more people could get them, because I can imagine most people who buy them just want to build one of the options and still not have so many leftovers. I feel like there's kind of a balance that could have been struck here.
Yeah, that definitely is interesting, especially because of how high the price is.
Right, I definitely agree with that. The other interesting thing to me is that while these are kind of in the spotlight right now, these were not the first mosaic sets LEGO made. In fact, the first one is actually from 1955, and we don't actually have a picture of this. It's just a brick set entry. But the next one after that was from 1984, where again they took a completely different approach. You can see they have kind of these almost out-of-system blocks that they used mostly just for learning. As you can see, it's branded as a Duplo set for learning with these blocks. They made quite a few of these from 1984 to 1986, 87, even in 88 and moving on, they were still making these. So these lasted quite a long time, but obviously if you look at them right now, they look basically unrecognizable as LEGO, other than the fact that they are blocks that you stick onto a base plate. The pictures really have nothing to do with LEGO, and it's kind of interesting seeing how LEGO Mosaic started. So kind of as we move on to the category of what you would normally associate with a LEGO Mosaic, what's interesting, not a lot of people know about this, but in 2000 they had a program where you could submit your picture and build your own mosaic. This retailed for $30, which in today's dollars is about $45. You can see this is honestly not bad for 2000, despite the fact that it's far under half the price of the standard mosaics today. This mosaic is the same size as the ones that come out today, 48 by 48, albeit being black and white and a little less detailed than what we're used to. Aside from a LEGO Education set, which appears to be an almost direct re-release of the set from 1984, almost 20 years later, we would get our next mosaics in 2003. 2 LEGO icons, them being the dinosaur from Adventurers and Johnny Thunder from the same line, and 2 animals, a cat and a tiger. Obviously, these don't look as refined as what we're used to, although you can still see some basic shading and work done into these mosaics. The black and white, as I imagine, was a little bit off-putting for customers, and I know that these were very limited release, and very few people actually own these sets. The next time we'd get a mosaic is in 2005, where we get yet another LEGO Education set, which is fascinating because the picture that's used is almost identical to the one they used in 1984. This is almost the only example I can think of LEGO re-releasing a very ancient set from 1984 so many years into the future, and they keep seeming to re-release this over and over again. You can see the exact same shape for the chicken there. I'm not sure why they decided to do that. Maybe they were just happy with the shapes and decided to stick with it. But we wouldn't really get a retail set mosaic until our next $10 mosaic in 2007. These were on clear backed base plates, which were very interesting, actually very useful for displaying right now. But you can see that these mosaics weren't quite refined. There's one for $10 and one for $20. And the problem with these is that they aren't really mosaics. You can see a lot of 3D elements sticking out of here, like the robot's shield and the shark's teeth and the crab's claws, that don't really seem to make sense within the actual aesthetic of the mosaic as a whole. In fact, these are closest to the Brick Sketches sets, which are created by Chris McVeigh, who was an AFOL, who then converted to becoming an official LEGO designer for the LEGO group, what with incorporating these 3D designs. Moving on 1 year later in 2008, we would get yet another re-release of that same 1984 set, which is seemingly super popular, and you see that same chicken again for LEGO Education. But it would be many years until we actually got an official LEGO Mosaic in 2016, where the personalized Mosaic portraits were launched at very specific limited brand locations around the world. It's a very unique experience, and here's a picture of mine. Essentially what happens is you go into a booth and they take a photo of you, upon which they print out the instructions for and give you this set full of bricks. You'll get a ton of leftovers to build a face of your own.
I actually was not familiar with these. Oh, that's like from an official store?
Yes, so this was actually done at the Billin store. It's called Build Your Own Mosaic. They cost $130.
And LEGO has quite a few locations with these already. Of course, their flagship largest store in the world in Leicester Square, London has one. There's one at the LEGO House in Billund, which is where I got mine. I believe they have one in New York, as well as obviously the video that we just showed was a Toys R Us in Hong Kong.
So what do you think of kind of the way that they decided to do these as compared to the official sets? And do you think it's arguably more valuable to have one of yourself versus just one that you make of someone else?
I feel like, I mean, obviously I would prefer a more custom one, because that way it's like specific to you. Especially if you're going to be hanging this in your house somewhere. It probably has something to do with like you as a person. So you might as well do it if something you actually have an emotional connection to already. I'm all for them doing these kind of unique experience type things, such as the create your own in Disney, for example, in Florida. That way, like, it gives a purpose to the stores being there, other than just like another place to buy the product.
I can see that viewpoint. I actually agree with you, although I can see some fans would be maybe a little upset that they wouldn't be able to get some of this stuff unless they go to those specific stores. That being said, I do think that it's very possible for LEGO to put out a build-your-own Mosaic set, kind of along the same vein as the Brickhead's Go Brick Me set, where you essentially had a blank template and allowed to build your own personal features onto it. They could very easily make a companion app where you upload a picture, adjust the cropping, whatnot, and it generates instructions for you to make your own mosaic. I can see them being able to do that, especially with full color, and not just in black and white, and probably price it at the same or at least similar price point to these standard mosaics like the Iron Man ones today.
Yeah, that's very true. That being said, I doubt that they'll end up doing that, because that way you could technically make an official LEGO set of any subject matter you wish, or you could make a portrait of the Osprey.
Oh yeah, LEGO will not like that.
Oh, but anyway, moving on. I'm curious to know your opinion on using studs, the circles versus the squares. A designer in the instruction manual said that it made it look less pixelated and more like an actual photo, as we discussed previously in this video. What are your thoughts on that, and kind of making artwork out of LEGO as a whole?
Yeah, I do find that interesting. I feel like if you are going to be making like a piece of artwork out of LEGO, you might as well just go all the way, accept the pixelated look, and have it look more like a special interpretation of an art piece rather than a I guess they see it as a better art piece.
Yeah, that's a fair point to make. I can imagine that internally at LEGO, that was also a really tough decision for them to make, and probably what spurred the new base plate being black in the background as to not distract between the gaps in the studs. But anyways, looking at the LEGO art sets as a whole, one of the great things about, obviously, all LEGO is that you don't need to stick to the instructions. You can basically do whatever you want, and there's a website out there that really facilitates that. I mentioned this site a bit earlier in the video, but one of the really great things about this is that it's really built for an AFOL or a fan of LEGO who's familiar with stuff to be able to make their own. So how it works is, with LEGO Art Remix, you select an image. So let's say I am going to select this guy right here. And you can essentially set the width and height to be whatever you want. Obviously, the width needs to be pretty maxed out on this one. And right now, it kind of shows you what studs you're using for a particular set. But the real power for this is if you mix in all the stud colors, you can get basically a perfect approximation of your image with the closest available values on the LEGO stud color scale. If you go in closer here, you can see that every single pixel is represented by a certain LEGO stud. And it gets even better, because you can copy the Bricklink XML to your keyboard. So for those of you who don't know what Bricklink is, it's a site where you can basically buy and sell any used or new LEGO set, part, minifigure, you name it, Bricklink has it. And the great thing about this is that, okay, if you go to your wanted list, you can go to upload, and you upload Bricklink XML format. Let's make a new wanted list, call it test. If you paste in your XML, you can take a look at all of the different studs that it generated and essentially be able to purchase the parts from there. One of the big downsides I will say to Bricklink is that it doesn't always group your stuff in carts nicely. So let's go to a wanted list where I already have my parts set aside for this mosaic, and you hit buy all. It's probably going to be something super expensive. Yeah, as you can see, it's like $486, which is crazy, but it's not actually that bad. So if you go into one of these carts, you'll notice that certain studs, for example, are 15 cents each, which is really high. That's where Bricks and Pieces comes in. Bricks and Pieces is LEGO's official site where you can essentially buy any of the available parts that they have. So if you go back to the LEGO Art Remix site and you just close out any of the studs that are discontinued, like for example, sand green is no longer in production, so just get rid of that. You can get rid of the old gray and whatnot. Eventually get it down to what's currently in production. You can go over to LEGO's Bricks and Pieces site and you can essentially select the bricks that you need to buy for usually much cheaper than Bricklink. So let's take a look at this stud here, right? 15 cents for an olive green stud. Let's take a look at this part over here and find the part ID. Once we get the part ID, that's 4073. Just check and make sure Bricks and Pieces isn't using a different one. I know for a fact that it's using 6141. If you type in 6141, you get a list of all the parts currently available of that color. So looking back at our cart here, 15 cents for olive green. You go down here, it's only 4 cents. So all you need to do is delete these items from your cart and just figure out how many you're deleting and whatnot. For example, there seems to be quite a few of the olive green studs needed here, as well as these yellowish green ones, which I saw earlier needed around 200. If you get rid of those and you only spend 4 to 5 cents on it a piece, you can really price optimize this to be able to get the cheapest possible value.
I mean, I wouldn't buy these either way, but if you can save money, you should. That's like $16 saved on that one type of piece alone.
Exactly, and as proof, I was able to get this exact mosaic for around $150, which is significantly less than the original Bricklink estimate, just by combining Bricks and Pieces and Bricklink to optimize the store carts. Because sometimes Bricklink has stuff for 1 cent. LEGO customer service likely will not. This kind of logic also applies to building the official sets themselves. Let's say you want to build one of the official designs, you can use a combination of this LEGO Art Remix site and Bricklink and Bricks and Pieces to optimize how you want to build those and just build your own custom frame. And the good thing about LEGO Art is that you actually don't need to have all of the official framing behind it. Look, like for example, this is the back of my How mosaic from LEGO Bionicle. As you can see, I've literally just gotten together random bricks and plates and put them together in the exact shape that a normal mosaic would be. And the best part is, this part is not seen from the front, so it doesn't even matter. As obviously, you can't even really tell from the front that anything's different. The other thing about them is that you really don't actually need both hooks. I used it for this one, but you can really very easily hang them with just one, which I've done for most of the other mosaics here.
Yeah, I agree. And there's not really a downside because you don't even really see that part anyway.
Right, and the way I see it, you're just practicing your creativity by building your own frame. But I guess that about wraps us up. Thank you for joining myself and Brick on this discussion on LEGO Art. Thank you for tuning in to Duck Bricks. Subscribe for more LEGO videos, news, reviews, discussions, and analyses coming your way very soon. Thank you.